Well, folks, the crew has talked me into doing another one of these Ask Me Anything, or AMA they call them. Look at this bucket of questions I'm supposed to get to. The disclaimer here is that it's April 1st today. Why they thought it was good to do an Ask Me Anything on April Fool's Day, I don't know. But I'm going to get through as many of these as I can. I haven't seen them yet. I asked these guys, there's a camera here and a camera there. I'm like, RJ, Jonathan, what's the deal? What are these questions? They're like, well, you get to see them when the time comes. So thanks for being here, but here we go. Some of them are really small. That's good. I'm going to pick a skinny one here. Could you give me some tips on how to get a hunting tag in the U.S. as a foreigner? That's from MRL. Well, that's easy enough. Your rules are exactly the same as a non-resident in most cases. So go and apply to those states and it'll say, are you a resident or a non-resident? You're a non-resident. So apply as a non-resident, just like I do. I live in Montana. I'm a resident here, but if I apply in Nevada, I apply as a non-resident. Even though you're a foreigner, same rules apply. Well, that's an easy first question. Okay. Christian says, I recently inherited a very nice Model 7 300 Win short mag that was only used for a couple of elk hunts over 10 years. I'm torn between hanging on to it or hanging it up or actually using it. What are your thoughts? Use it. That's what firearms are for. That's an easy one. Use it. Don't hang it up and let it collect dust. Matthew M. I once heard that if I apply for a job in my vacation area that I can deduct the vacation as job searching trip. If this is true, can I do this with my out-of-state hunts? No. You can deduct anything you want. You can deduct your dog food if you want to. You won't be able to defend this. You can put it on your tax return and you might talk to somebody who says, oh yeah, I always go and do this on a vacation and I can write it off. Well, you can write it off, but you're not going to be able to defend it if you get audited. So, sorry about that, Matt. Don't want you to get in trouble. The hunting's not very good in the federal penitentiary in Fort Leavenworth, Kansas. So, all right, John has a question. How do you get your wife to let you leave so much during hunting season? Does she ever hunt with you? Well, I think it's not so much does she let me leave, it's get the hell out of my hair, Randy. You're driving me nuts. Don't you have some hunting to do? Hey, this gets to, points that you're at in your life. Back when we were first married, there's no way I would have been gone as much as I am now. When we had a child, there's no way I would have traveled as much as I do now. This kind of current endeavor started when Matthew went off to college in 2008. So we work it out. The rest of the year, she gets to run the calendar. She's like, we're going to be here, we're going to be there. And I'm like, yes, ma'am. And I go there and I smile. Does she ever hunt with me? She used to hunt a lot. And now she's saying that she might come hunting with me this year, but she says I'm not going to be on camera. I don't know if we have any critters that she took around here. Hey, how do you like our new studio? The crew put this together. I was down in Nevada on business all last week and came back and voila. So, Dr. Adams, are you currently applying for elk in Utah? Yes, I am. If so, how many bonus points do you have? I think I have 4 or 6, can't remember. And what unit are you looking into? I bounce around between units, but I'm doing what's called the HAMS hunt. HAMS stands for handgun, archery, muzzleloader, and shotgun. And the reason being is those draw odds are way, way better. And when you're at the bottom of the point pool like I am, you're never going to draw one of the other ones. So, this is from Wherever I Roam. Do you think the mess in Montana elk tags will sort itself out in 3 years? Unlikely. Going to Casper, Wyoming this year instead of Montana. Good choice. I mean, if you're an archery hunter, I always say Montana should be high up your list for elk hunting. If you're a rifle hunter, it's tougher. And the way Montana's licensing system keeps getting tweaked with and messed up, and how the preference points apply to non-residents, I can see why a lot of you are saying it's not worth it anymore. Anyhow, I did talk to our director yesterday and I gave him a whole bunch of suggestions of how to make the licensing system easier in Montana. He probably is wondering, what, Newberg got nothing better to do this time of year? All right, this one is from One Female Hunter. That's the name on Instagram. What should you do if an employer doesn't take enough taxes out during the year and left you owing money? Go to your employer. There's a form W-4. Make sure that you've filled it out properly. In other words, not too many exemptions. And if you're married, here's the problem, how you can end up being underwithheld. Say both spouses are working if you're married, and you tell the IRS, I'm married and I have 2 dependents. Well, both spouses, their W-4 says that. Now the withholding tables account for the fact that you're going to have 4 dependents instead of 2. So you're going to be underwithheld because of that. And they're taking your income without any respect for your spouse's income. So they're like, well, a household of 4 people, married, oh, they aren't going to owe that much money. So they withhold smaller amounts. They forget to add the spouse's income on there. So what I would do, I'd file a new W-4 with your employer and I'd say, okay, I was off by $1,200 last year. So withhold an extra $100 out of each month. That's how you prevent that from happening. And you don't want to end up owing too much at the end of the year because you can get penalized. Kent Schaefer. How many hours and miles a year do you spend driving to and from your hunts? Miles is usually between 18 and 22,000 miles a year on my truck. Hours, I would say I do myself, I average 12 trips a year, and each of those probably average 3 days of travel because some of them are pretty far away. So I'm probably traveling 30 to 36 days a year as part of this gig. I barely stop to take a leak. I stop to get gas, I get some more coffee, and whew, off we're going. There's none of this. I'm not, on the road to sightsee. I got a place to be. I got to get home. Anyhow, Brian asks, you say never pay retail. Yep, never pay retail if you can help it. Does promo code Randy get me a discount to the Fresh Tracks Plus platform? Unfortunately, it doesn't. It's already discounted more than what we were advised to do. Also, does it work with the IRS if I end up owing any taxes? Unfortunately, Brian, that's not going to help you at the IRS. I can imagine going down to the IRS office, hey, can I get a discount with promo code Randy? They'd probably say, we're going to audit you for sure now. Montana to Alaska is who this person is. Who have you come across in your life who have figured it out by having an enjoyable, flexible, but money-producing job that allows them to do hunts whenever they want? What is that job? I haven't come across anybody who has it figured out in the classic sense, right? Where, all I do is I just go hunt and I don't worry about anything and that's my job. I don't know anyone like that. For me, I became a CPA who had most of my work done by April 15th so that I'd have a lot of flexibility. And tax accountants make a decent living in that 4 months leading up to April 15th. So it gave me a lot of freedom, but that comes with its challenges also. I mean, you work your brains out. So there is no easy path to having it figured out. Figured out for me would be a different outcome or a different path than figured out for you. We always end up in this balance of, do I enjoy my work versus am I here for a big paycheck or a bigger than normal paycheck or whatever it might be, right? All things being equal, you'd like to just go have a job where you show up every day and do everything, that you love to do. And I think everybody here would say, we enjoy our work pretty much, but there's still days it's a job. It just is. And this idea about hunting whenever they want in a money-producing job, most money-producing jobs, and this isn't one of them, they have a lot of demand. So I wish I had it figured out. I don't. I know what I want out of my life, and I can't say I've figured it out, but I'm thinking about it and trying to get to where that is. And for me, I had a really serious health issue in 2004 and 2005 that I still deal with, a liver problem. And they said, you're not going to be a full-time CPA anymore. You're going to have to scale back. Well, My whole identity, my whole lifestyle, my whole planning for my future was this CPA world. And this is how much money it produces and blah, blah, blah. Well, sometimes you don't get to control what that path is to figure it out. And I remember being at the Mayo Clinic in 2005, being really sick. They sent me home, said, you're doing nothing but laying on the couch for 3 months. And that's the closest my wife and I probably ever came to getting divorced, because I was just incorrigible. And I feel bad that she had to deal with some grumpy old fart like me. But the point of that was, it was that pivot point in my life where I said, all right, here's a new reality I'm faced with. I have to go and find a new identity. I have no idea if this liver thing is going to get better or get worse. What is meaningful to me? So it was all about do something that was meaningful, not something that made a lot of money. So that's how I ended up doing this. And eventually getting mostly out of the CPA world. I'll be there this weekend working on some tax returns, but I don't do that much of it anymore. I don't know if I'll be that person who's got it figured out. I'm trying. So Scott asks, can we take a tax deduction for auction items that we buy online, say at Omaze, O-M-A-Z-E, I'm not sure what that is, or say an RMEF banquet? You can, to the extent that the price that you pay exceeds the fair market value of whatever benefits you receive. I'll use an easy example. You pay $1,500 for a rifle that's worth $1,000. All right, you've paid $500 over and above the fair market value of that item. You get to deduct that $500. Now instantly somebody says, oh, so that means if I go and buy one of these big auction tags at one of these events and I pay $80,000, I can write off all $80,000 other than the non-resident tag cost of $400. No. And you hear it all the time. I'm like, you people might be writing this off, but if you get audited, you are screwed. That $80,000 tag, the auction itself is establishing the fair market value of what that is, because you get to go to the front of the line, right? You don't have to wait 20 years to draw that elk tag or wherever. You get all these season types. You get all of these different units. There's a whole bunch of things that come with these auction tags that are not the same as the tag you draw in the limited entry draw. And there's a lot of these auctions going on, and those auctions establish what the fair market value is. It's what people are willing to pay with no compulsion to act otherwise. So if you get audited and you've been deducting those auction tags, prices, good luck with that. Don't come and ask me to do your tax return. Any thoughts on lowering my capital gains after selling a rental property? Need to sell my rental property to fund my hunting addiction. Well, Cliff, I like that idea, but I guess a couple questions to that is, your rental property might be funding your hunting as it is, but if you want to sell it, that's completely up to you. So you're going to have some depreciation that you took on that property, and that's going to get recaptured at a certain rate, depending on whether you were depreciating things like, furniture or stoves or refrigerators or whatever, versus depreciation on the building. Those get treated differently. So the easiest way to lower your capital gains is to do what's called the 1031 exchange. In other words, you take rental real estate and you buy other rental real estate with the proceeds. As long as you replace your cost, or let's say you sell this one for $500,000, you go and replace for $400,000, you're only going to get taxed on the difference of $100,000. So you wouldn't get taxed on the wholesale. So if you're thinking about doing that, go talk to a tax professional. It's going to be worth the money you pay for what you could save. But that's really the only way you're going to lower your taxes on the sale of a capital asset like a rental property. Oh, Jonathan asks, how likely is it that Montana starts a grizzly bear hunting season? Almost very, very unlikely, and I can go into deep detail. Would I apply for a tag? I probably wouldn't, because I got to do it in Alaska, and I think someone else would get more pleasure and benefit and adventure out of the tag than I would. So I probably won't apply. I did spend 3 years on the governor's grizzly bear roundtable. Governor Roscoe, back in 1999, 98 or 99, appointed 5 from Montana. Governor of Idaho appointed 5, Governor of Wyoming appointed 5, and all 15 of us met every quarter for almost 3 years working on the conservation strategy that would be used if they ever delisted the grizzly bears from the Yellowstone, in the greater Yellowstone ecosystem. The reason I say it's unlikely that a grizzly season will start, this is really simplified, it's way more detailed than this, but in that plan, if delisting ever happens, there's criteria about what the allowed human-caused mortality is within a certain area. And if you exceed that human-caused mortality, there's no other opportunity for additional human-caused mortality. And hunting would be one of those human-caused mortalities. So for many years, we've been exceeding the allowed human-caused mortality because they get run over, problem bears get, depopulated, i.e. killed. Garbage bears, they're in someone's backyard, they're a problem. There's a lot of things that cause human-caused mortality for the grizzly bear population. And there's certain percentages of that on the total population and a certain quota or percentage limit on the female subquota. Usually we're exceeding that. So even if the states had control, you wouldn't be able to have other human-caused mortality to take it even further above. So I don't know. Don't get your hopes up on it anytime soon. Lauren says, can I go hunting with you this year? Well, maybe. We do a contest every year with the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation. They run this big contest called Win a Hunt with Randy. They usually do it October, November, December-ish. You go sign up there, and the rules are there. And every year we take somebody hunting as the winner of that contest. So RMEF runs it all. We tell them, look, we'll take the person, we'll pay all these costs and get them gear packages from all of our sponsors, and it works out really cool. We've met some really good people that way. So Mark says, I love grouse just like you, but in the east they are not that stupid. We hunted Jordan, Montana last year for sharptails and did great, but where do I need to go to find roughies? Well, you're not going to find any roughies out there in Jordan, Montana. You're a long ways from any rough grouse. Garfield County, Montana, yeah, there's sharptails and there's sage grouse and there's pheasants, but there's not going to be a lot of rough grouse. You got to get over here to the western part of the state to the mountains if you want to find rough grouse. But I would disagree that only the west has stupid rough grouse. I've not seen any big difference between the intelligence level of rough grouse where I grew up in Minnesota and where I hunt them in Montana. But maybe when you say east, maybe you're talking like way northeast, and I've never hunted them there. Glendon says, in Montana, what pool do the combo tags go back to when a person is successful in the preference point draw, but they are unsuccessful in the limited draw and therefore turn their tag back in? These are tags called released tags. Yes, they are called that. So Montana, we did a video on it the other day. Today's the deadline for Montana. But they just go back to a pool of all the unsuccessful general applicants, then get in a draw for all of these released or return tags. So it's not that complicated. But what is complicated is when you check your draw results, it might say big game combo, unsuccessful. Release tag, successful. And you'll be like, what did I draw? Well, when it says released tag, successful, that means you drew one of those return tags. KMS says, what's your best advice to give for shed hunting or hunting elk, like to a beginner or a vet? I don't do any shed hunting. So if the question is for hunting elk, boy, we've got tons and tons of videos on that. I wouldn't be able to even get started on hunting elk in this thing, in this AMA they call it. But shed hunting, I don't do it. I just hang them up in trees. So that's no good for me to answer. Bulldog, for a non-resident tag and opportunity, is it easier to draw a coveted tag in a special zone if putting in for multiple species such as elk and mule deer rather than just one? Oh yeah, I mean, the more times you try, the better your odds of eventually getting one of them. That's pretty easy. That's statistics and probability there. If you apply in 12 different tag applications, your odds are a whole lot better than the person who only applies in one tag application. So this person, Endoro, if I have an LLC, which is a limited liability company, it's a type of entity recognized under state law that's separate from you as an individual. If I have an LLC for game birds and I'm elk hunting and I happen to encounter some grouse rather than hunting them, can I observe and document my observations and then deduct the trip expenses for that day? And for the record, I'm not a monster and will hunt grouse if I encounter them. Well, it depends on what the business purpose of your LLC is. When you say, I have an LLC for game birds, it sounds like you have some sort of business related to game birds. And if you're out observing and doing whatever it is, photographing or filming game birds, i.e. grouse, if I was your accountant, I'd say, yeah, you can deduct that, if that was your legitimate business purpose. The real problem comes is when people want to try and deduct things that have no business purpose. That's pretty simple. If you get a smile on your face when you ask that question, you've almost answered it. If you start like, wow, and you got to start dreaming things up, you probably know you shouldn't deduct that. But like I said, you deduct whatever you want. You're the one who's going to have to defend it, not me. All right, Kay Hogan. What is the best way to get involved in local hunting, conservation, politics, and policy? I am moving to Helena, Montana for my job and I want to get involved. Well, you're going to be moving to the capital of Montana, so it's really easy to get involved in policy and politics because you just got to walk down to the Capitol building. Our legislature meets for 90 days every 2 years. We wish it was every 90 years for 2 days, but there's a lot of groups in Montana. It depends on what type of policy issues you're interested in. You can either do it yourself, be your own advocate, or you could get involved with one of the groups. There's national groups the national groups usually don't get too involved in state level politics, but there's a lot of state groups and state level chapters. If you're into fishing, maybe Trout Unlimited, or if you're into backcountry stuff, maybe Backcountry Hunters and Anglers Montana chapter, or Montana Wildlife Federation, or, the list goes on and on and on. There's a lot of local groups that you can get involved in. Scott says, how often do you come back to Minnesota? I'll be there in a few weeks, filming my buddy's trapping beaver. I'll be back there for my niece's wedding or graduation in, late May. I'll be back there in November for deer hunting. He says, Winnebagosh, which is a lake just outside of where my brother lives in Deer River, has been smoking hot for walleyes the past 2 years. This year is projected to be dynamite with the 2018-19 spawning class. Well, sounds like maybe I need to carve out a day when I go back for a graduation or something. Back there, they don't call it Winnebagosh. They call it Winnie. Big Winnie, Little Winnie. Yeah, I've fished there a lot, but I just don't know if I'm going to have time because I got to get back here because I'm taking my other niece to Alaska on a spring black bear hunt the first week of June. Let's see. Dead Drifter asks, how do you suggest hunters and outdoorsmen alike survive high inflation and gas prices at the pump? Do you have any cost-saving tips for buying new gear in this economy? I look at it and say, do I really need this? Do we really need it? Is this going to help? First of all. So then if you do need it, all right. Is there a way that I can get some sort of benefit or promo on it? If it's something that Go Hunt carries, go to their gear shop and use promo code Randy. And on most items, they're going to give you 10% off by using promo code Randy. So that's one way. At the gas pump, think about, do you really need to drive the vehicle you are for the trip that you're taking? I mean, if I'm going antelope hunting in Wyoming, it might make more sense to take, Marcus's little Toyota Tacoma because we're going to get better mileage and we'll, have tents that will sleep in the back. Now, if we're going to be towing a whole trailer of llamas, that ain't going to work. But there's times where you can save on gas. You can, instead of taking 2 vehicles, could you all fit in 1 vehicle, a bigger vehicle? I mean, all kinds of things like that. When we travel, we don't eat at a lot of restaurants. We bring a lot of home prepared food with us. We usually don't stay in a lot of motels if we can help it. We try to get there and get our camp set up, save the motel costs. So we're kind of tightwads when we travel, but we do end up spending quite a bit of money, but there's ways we can keep it a little bit tighter budget. So Ryan says, or asks, on the issue of corner crossing, which is like these little checkerboard squares, I need to bring a checkerboard here for a diagram. Public, private, public, private. In the West, we have these patterns that are BLM, private, or Forest Service, private, Forest Service, private, and it creates a checkerboard look to it. So that's what this person talks about when they say corner crossing. You're going where these corners intersect, right? And you're going from this corner to that corner. And this is BLM, that's BLM, this is private, that's private. You're trying to go whoop and not step on these private pieces. So if we as hunters were granted legal access onto these checkerboard lands by corner crossing, how do we address the possibility of an animal dying on the private even though it was shot on public? The same way you address it today if you're hunting public over here and private over here. These adjacent lands. There's a lot of places where that's currently a concern you got to have. And in many states, the landowner doesn't have to allow you over there to recover that game. So be careful. Be thinking about it. For the most part, you know, especially if you're archery hunting, because an animal might travel a little ways before they expire. If this is private and this is public, I try to set myself up so that the animals are going this direction. So if I do shoot, they're likely to continue and run further into the public. I don't like to have a situation where they're coming from public towards private, and if I shoot, well, they hop the fence, and then I got that problem. So that's not an issue just related to corner crossing. That's currently an issue if you hunt anywhere where there's a mix of public and private. Matt asks, I know you really love antelope hunting. Yep. But how come we never see you hunt antelope here in Montana? Well, a couple of reasons. One, it seems like I can never draw the tag. I've drawn more limited entry bull elk tags since 2012 or 2008 when we started this than I have limited entry antelope tags. And then last year I had a gunny sack full of points. I apply and I draw the tag, right? I'm like, whew, cool. Well, my mom ends up getting cancer, so I spend all of antelope season back in Minnesota with her. We were gonna film that Montana antelope hunt. I called Game and Fish. I'm like, hey, I gotta leave. How do I give this tag to a disabled vet or one of these other groups? And they're like, well, you're too late because archery season's already started under that tag. You can't transfer it once season has started. So unfortunately, I didn't get to hunt that tag, and the tag went unused. Not because I wanted to. I already had it on the calendar. We were going up to northern Montana hunting, but now it'll take me forever to draw again. Tony says, I heard you one time talk about changing your stock truck tires out to a more durable one. What tire is this? Oh yeah, the little 4-ply tire that you get when you drive your brand new pickup truck off the lot is about as soft and squishy as bubble gum. And you take it out to these rough roads in the West, and those rocks just tear it up. I don't know how many times I've come around the corner and there's somebody there with 2 flat tires. Oh, what happened? It happened to me one time. Brand new stock tires, like, oh boy, this is really good. Well, they put those soft tires on there, so when you drive it off the lot and you take a test drive, it feels really smooth. You know, it's soft, it absorbs a lot, it's quiet. Well, that doesn't do you any good when you got, 1,000 pounds of weight in the back of your truck and you're driving over sharp rocks and stuff. You want a heavier tire. So for years and years on my Titans, I used the Cooper Discover AT3. Had great results with them. And now in my new Ford Raptor, I have the BF Goodrich, I think it's called TK2 or something like that.
Terrain TAKO2.
TAKO2, Jonathan says. He must have been checking out my tires. But they've been really, really good too. I've taken those tires over some really nasty things. So just make sure it's a thicker ply tire with a better load rating. Asher says, I'm looking to move out west when I retire. Uh-oh, everyone who lives out west is going to be, Randy, give them some bum advice. We got enough people here. Which state will give me the best hunting opportunities and the lowest taxes on my pension? Well, regardless of hunting opportunities, the lowest tax on your pension is going to be Nevada has no state income tax, Wyoming has no state income tax, Washington has no state income tax, and Alaska has no state income tax. So right there you got 4 choices. Alaska is going to have the best hunting, followed by Wyoming, followed by Nevada, followed by Washington. So you pick whichever of those work for you. David asks, if the Montana sheep draw is totally random, which it's not, then what good does having points do? Here's how it works. Okay. This year, I'm getting close to 20 points. I can't remember what the maximum is here in Montana for sheep, but I'm going to assume, say I have 20 points. Well, we square those bonus points. So 20 times 20 is 400. And I also get an additional random number for this year. So I'm going to get assigned 401 random numbers. You know, someone may have told you it's totally random. Yes, how those random numbers are assigned is totally random. But I have 401. Let's say you have 2 points. So I've got 10 times as many points as you. You get 2 times 2 is 4, plus your current year application. You get 5 random numbers, I get 401 random numbers. They look at your 5 random numbers and say, which is the lowest one? Okay, that's the one of the 5 you're going in the draw with. And then they look at my 401 random numbers and say, which is the lowest one? Whoo, boy, you got a really low one. With this many random numbers assigned to you, you got pretty good odds of getting a low one. So that's what I go into the draw with. And then they start at the bottom and say, okay, who's got the lowest random number? All right, give that person a tag. Who's got the next lowest random number? Give that person a tag. So that's why point systems are helpful. I don't like them, but the draw is not totally random in Montana. For sheep, it's a bonus point draw and we square the bonus points. So the more bonus points you have, the better your odds or probabilities. Rob J says, besides Montana's unlimited units for sheep, what are the best odds for a sheep tag? Any peer lottery states? Yes, there are 2, Idaho and New Mexico. But the New Mexico odds are so slim because they only give 6% of the tags to us non-guided, non-residents, that by the time you apply 6% to something, I think they only give away 1 tag when it's all done, maybe 2. So yeah, you make reference that here in Montana, you can be guaranteed a sheep tag. It's called the Montana Unlimiteds, and before May 1st, you go and apply, and instead of applying for one of the limited entry units, you say, I want this unlimited unit, and resident or non-resident, you're going to get a tag. There's a quota, okay? This unit has a quota of 1, this of 2, and there's a reason why they do it that way. It's really, really, really hard hunting, and you have to have a legal ram, and a lot of the legal rams get cropped off, so finding a legal ram is tough, but people do it. But the best pure lottery state is Idaho. The downside of Idaho, well, let me say the good side of Idaho is there's no point system. Pure random. The downside is you have to front all the money, like $2,400. You got to pay a transaction fee on that $2,400, and you have to buy a non-refundable non-resident license that I think is like $160 just to apply. Yeah. Russ asks this question: is the Wyoming non-resident preference point system going to collapse under its own weight? No, I don't think so. With the change to 90%, 90-10 in Wyoming, and they changed it for moose, goat, sheep, bison, and if they ever have grizzly bear. So they changed it for those 5 species. With that change from, it used to be 25% to non-residents, 75% to residents. Now they changed it only 10% to non-residents, 90% to residents. So non-residents have went from 25% down to 10% for those 5 species. With that change and the already impressive point creep, why would anyone who is a non-resident start playing the game on these species or continue if they are a ways down the list? That's a good question, Russ. When they raised the price of the points in 2007, I bailed on Wyoming for sheep and moose. I left 7 points on the table and I looked at it and said, so I think everyone's going to ask that question, but the point systems aren't going to implode. There's too much institutional inertia to keep them in place. As much as I hate them and I wish we could get rid of all of them, they're here to stay. So you just got to decide, do you want to play that game and wait longer and longer and longer and pay more and more and more? Or do what I did and say, thanks, Wyoming. I'll spend my money doing something else. So Dustin asks, and I'm not going to be the one very good at answering this. He says, how do you think the new no game camera rule will affect Utah hunting this year? Well, since I don't use game cameras for hunting, I really can't say that. But I've hunted states where there's a lot of game cameras, Arizona, Utah, Nevada, where every water source is full of game cameras, where I'm almost afraid to go take a pee because it's like, man, I'm going to end up on somebody's game camera. I don't know how it will impact things. I guess we'll find out. Unfortunately, I suspect there's going to be some that comply and some who don't comply. That's always the unfortunate part. But I guess we'll see. Let's check in after a few years of that being in place and see if it makes a difference. So Dan asks this, what essentials do you carry in your pack at all times? Boy, we've done bag dumps on that. It'd be hard to go through it all here. But it's mostly things that keep me safe, keep me warm, keep me hydrated, and can take care of the job if I luck out and get one. You know, there's this emergency kit, or what some people call the poop kit. They use a different vernacular than poop. That's if something goes wrong, okay, lighters, redundant source of starting a fire, fire starter, some emergency stuff, first aid kit. Those, I never go without those, so. Jacob says, what are your experiences with getting a stock or a hunt messed up by other hunters? Well, it happens all the time. You know, when you hunt public land, that's just part of the gig, you know. And like everybody else, I'm like, oh, dad rat, you know. But you know what? It is what it is. I'm not going to dwell on it, even though at the time I might kick the dirt and, you know, that's hunting public land. So it happens to us a lot. And kind of the ethic, if you want to call it that, or the creed we follow is if you are the first one there, you get that spot. We turn around and we go somewhere else. If you see an animal and you're on a stock, we're not going to race you to get to it. We're going to just sit there and watch your stock. Now, some people don't. Some other people don't look at it that way, but you know what? Not much we can do about it. Hunter says, it would be nice if you could explain in depth Montana's draw system for elk. We've already done that on our YouTube channel this year. And on our Fresh Tracks Plus, we did a live event Tuesday night, I think it was, about the Montana system. The hunt codes, what's archery only and what's any weapon, how the point system works when applying for the special draw, Hunter, that video, just that video itself is like 20 minutes long, and that doesn't cover everything. So I'd have to send you to that video because, boy, we could eat up a lot of time. Mike asks this question, is Scott Jones, our buddy Scott, who's been on a lot of episodes. We always have fun. Have we ever not had fun? If I had a hope for all of you watching, that you had friends like I'm lucky to have. The blessing of life is some of the people we get to share it with, and Scott Jones, he's top notch, man. So, is Scott Jones as good at hunting as he is on a monoski? If you're at Heavenly Ski Resort in Lake Tahoe or Mount Rose outside of Reno.
Great day at Mount Rose.
And you see some dude wearing Sitka pants as his ski pants with these eagles on the knee pads on a monoski, right? Those of you not familiar, a monoski is, you know, both feet buckled into one ski. Scott's had multiple knee replacement surgeries, problems. So he does the monoski. Yeah, he's as good of a hunter as I think he is on a monoski. I've never seen him monoski except on video, so I can't say for sure, but he's a damn good hunter. And he gets a lot of attention on the ski hill, man. I mean, Scott at the Monopalooza in Lake Tahoe, Scott Jones is like the guy. He's like Joe Cool. Everybody wants to be like Scott Jones.
Scott Jones!
I hope all of you have a friend in your life like Scott Jones. He adds so much treasure to my life and the people who are friends with him. So cool. Well, folks, that's all we got through today. We still got some more to go. So thanks for being here for the first one. We'll get to the rest of them later. Appreciate all your questions. Appreciate you watching. And stay tuned.